So last week I went to Super Booth in Berlin and I got to know Joel. Joel is the owner of, or CEO in this case, not owner. Owner is quite a harsh word, of Chase Bliss. I love Chase Bliss. It's a great company that really tries to do things differently, but also creates some of the highest quality pedals I've ever tried in my life. And the most intricate as well, which I really resonate with. And we talked, and he said, well, long story short, he said, I'm gonna send you a Mood. And I was absolutely blown away. But here it is. The Mood MKII by Chase Bliss. It is such a special pedal because I have had in the past, and I still do, the ONWARD. Also a fantastic pedal. And I am a big fan of pedals that do one thing. One of my favorite pedals ever that I've had on my boards for the best part of maybe 7 years now is the Gem Pedals FUZZ PHRASE, the original one. And this thing absolutely rips. You just put it there, or you put it there, or you put it anywhere, and it's a great, great sound. And you press it and it does that sound and that's it. I'm a big fan of this type of pedal. Then the ONWARD is a kind of in-between. You will press it and it will do kind of the same thing. It's still very much alive, but you have your freeze channel that does your pad sustained kind of thing. Then you have your glitch channel that does small repetitions of what you play. And then you have the error knob that affects them both or independently as well in glitchy and freaky ways. You have bit crusher, overdrive, you have the sustain, and the octave knob, of course, you know. But it is quite straightforward in reality. They don't interact so much, the two channels between them. You can utilize them quite easily individually or together in parallel, right? And so that was my expectation when I got the Mood. But this one is not quite like that. The two sides are very interactive. And the fact that you never know exactly how long the loop is means that when you press this one, you always get a bit surprised. And I'm coming from a world of, well, of band music, but also of looping. This is it's a pimped up RC600, full of dust as well. Not because it's not used, just because I play in some really dusty industrial places sometimes. And this thing absolutely rips as well. It's a great, great piece of gear that has a bunch of effects inside it and has like really, really good practical functionalities of how you can set it up, and honestly is one of my favorite pedals, or like workstations really. It's more of a workstation than a pedal. And I've done some touring with it, just with this, and it's a great, great pedal. You know, it's a great workstation because you can get all your sounds in here. Great stuff. Then I also went through a phase where I would use this as a looper, because the single mode C has a mode where you can tap in and out of the tape loop and create a looper pedal with this. Great and very predictable. Yeah, you can really get your chords going, get your melody going, and you know how it's going to go. That's not the case with the Mood. And I was surprised. I was really surprised. And I found that the Mood on its own is beautiful. But I think it really, really shines when you give it some friends. And that's why today I'm gonna be taking apart my old board, which really the only freaky thing that was really happening in it was the ONWARD. So now I'm gonna be adding the Mood. And while playing through the board, which is this one, well, now it's completely taken apart already, but it was like this, a vibe machine, then a fuzz face, you know, tuner, tube screamer, and then it would go on to the onward, and then it would go to my CAPISTAN delay, my Dream 65 by Universal Audio. This one here, great pedal. I'm trying out now the Lion by Universal Audio because of that Marshall sound. I'll keep you posted on that. And then it goes end of chain to the IMMERSE Neunaber. Not sure how you say that. IMMERSE MKII, which is a fantastic. Damn, these are really dusty actually now that I see it. Fantastic reverb. Okay. So when I was playing the older board and just using the output into the Mood, it was okay. It was great. There was some great sounds in there. But I think there was something that wasn't doing it justice somehow. So I thought, what better video than to build a pedal board especially for this? And I tried a lot of things out. That's why the mess of cables here. And I came to this arrangement. So first of all, normally I use my amp in the end of the chain to simulate that I'm driving everything into the front of the amp, because that's normally how I played when I played with amps. I was never a big fan of effects loops and extra cables. I was always a fan of letting the front of the amp get hit by whatever sounds I'm putting before it, and letting those sounds drive with the amp, or if the amp is clean, then be clean. But normally I would always drive it a little bit so that the delays can hit the front and like drive a little bit. But I've actually found that in this board, it works best in the beginning, you know? Because this way I just have like a bass tone that will then get altered by the other pedals. And after that, we go mono out. Not sure why that happens. Into the onward. Because I really feel like the onward is one of those pedals that needs the tactile beginning of chain function. If you have a big sound going on onward, a freeze and a very like thick glitch, if you just tap the strings and do a really soft noise, it will cut everything off. And that kind of control is really important for me when playing the onward, because it can get quite wild if you're not careful. So that's it. And then the onward here has the dip switches for especially this one and this one, which is the mono in stereo out switch, and then the spread switch that will make the stereo image of the pedal move in specific ways. So that means that I'm getting a mono from my Dream 65, and then I'm actually getting a TRS stereo out of the onward and into my Mood. Now this is by far one of the freakiest and most satisfying pedal combos I've played in recent times. The onward and the Mood complement each other so well. We can do a little sound demo later, but for example, when using the clock knob when the Mood is fully running, I always felt that it's a bit of a harsh movement or a harsh thing to do. I quite like things that flow into each other and that have a storyline to it. And sometimes it works well, but I would say that a lot of the times this clock knob when everything is running is quite harsh. It's a very present type of sound. So I had a hard time using it. When I opened it, I tried it out the first time, just the pedal itself with nothing before or after. Had a hard time really going for it because I always felt that it was going to be a bit much, you know? But what I found also is that If you're playing with a synth or something, maybe had an impression from videos that it wouldn't be quite like that, because you have something that's always being fed into it. So there's like a bed underneath, and then the clock is just like kind of doing the changes on the thing that's on top of this bed that's already there. So on guitar, I thought briefly to put a looper before this so that I could have a channel going into it, which would be quite nice. But actually what I found is that if you just put the onward before, the onward will literally create this bed for you so that you can move things here more freely while not losing completely your foundation, which I found really, really interesting and a great sound. So after this TRS here, we have mono in. Actually, no, we have stereo in, mono. We have stereo in, stereo out. So we can disable here the meso switch, but we still have the spread on. Yep. So that's that. Boop. So this is a TRS out, which will go into the input of the CAPISTAN. If you don't know about this, because I bought this second hand, I'm not sure if it came with a manual or not, but the CAPISTAN V1 and I guess the V2 as well supports, I'm pretty sure the V2 does this as well, supports TRS, stereo in, or mono in, right? And to change that, you have to take the screws off, right? And on the left side, there is a small plastic piece that's connecting different pins. There's 3 pins. And if I'm not mistaken, the left 2 pins connected, so the middle one and the left one, if you put the plastic thing to connect those two, then you have a TRS input. And then if you take this plastic off and you put the plastic so that it connects the middle and the right side pin, it will support a mono input, which is quite nice to know, because when I first plugged it in, there was a situation where one of the channels wasn't working for some reason, and it was because of that. Long story short. Ultimately, I think it's really nice to have these as big layer sounds. One thing about the Mood that I really like is both the reverb and the delay channels, just because these sounds that I'm used to, they're simple. There is one small problem with that, which is I couldn't really combine them, you know? So you can only really have the reverb or the delay happening one at a time. You could theoretically try, to loop them in the micro channel, of course, on the micro loop, but it's a different thing, right? So what I found is that by putting the delay and the reverb after this, you can have every combination of sound ever, always, And especially if you're using the slip function here, I thought that would be super nice. It would be super nice if I could have the slip function on, but the reverb on. But it doesn't allow it, of course. So in that case, I can have here the slip function on and then the delay and reverb. So that's it. And for power, I will be using temporarily this Harley Benton power plant ISO, which actually is battery powered, which I really, really appreciate. It's like a power bank as well. So you can just power your pedals with not being connected. And you can, this is super nice actually, you can have it plugged in. And then if something happens to the power, it will not shut off. It will run directly on the battery power. It's super, super nice actually for pedals, especially as the Dream, for example, that when they lose power, they cut off your sound completely and then they take, like 1, 2, 3, imagine like 7 seconds or something to boot, So this is super practical for that kind of thing. Really, really practical. So my power bank will go here. I'm not sure if it's too tall actually for this. I think it might be. Well, that's a shame. That's really a shame, actually. Then Introducing the new board. This used to be my old pedal board that was a lot bigger, and I cut it actually to size for it to be smaller so I could fit it in a smaller case. As you can see, it's quite rustic, let's say it like that, right? It's DIY vibes. But it works great, it works really great. So that's what we're going to be using actually now for this build. And here we go again. Also, my tip for anyone that is building pedal boards and trying out layouts, what I do, because I always have my Velcros on, and I'm not going to take my Velcros off, you know, just to try things on. And if you just put them there, then you have to keep ripping them off. You can always just put them upside down. They're literally taking exactly the same amount of space, you know. Just have to like be mindful of the connections, but actually it's fine. I know that this one is a little bit shorter, or it's about one pedal less long, or like less wide, yes. Thinner, less wide, yeah. So we have to take that into account. So have these, Onward, the Dream, tap tempo delay is always super nice to have at reach, right? Then I would have my new knobber. Never really need to touch that one. So actually this is going to open up a new world of possibilities. It's always nice when you also kind of take on a challenge and fail at it. Well, maybe there was a reason for that fail. Maybe because something you weren't seeing is presenting itself. Because as it stands, I think I know why this happened. I think I know why this happened. Because I will introduce here. I was gonna try to keep it really minimal, but well, here's actually my tuner. Tune pedal, always a great addition to any board. I have in the other power supply that I use, which is not the battery powered one, I have a total of 8 outputs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, yeah. And the Voodoo Labs that's coming will actually have 10 outputs. So that means that we have 8 now available. That was also why I was using the small board, because it has 5 outputs and power outputs, and I was planning to just use that one. So in this case, because I have 8, I can stretch it a bit longer. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I have 2 more power possibilities here. What I was thinking of doing, and I think we will do it now because there is this possibility all of a sudden, is actually move these over here, right? And get an expression pedal here for the Onward. I find that the Onward having an expression pedal is really, really nice because you can swell in your effect. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 still, because this is passive. So I can still fit 2. So in that case, if I had to choose one, I would of course put this one to the side, and I would choose to put this here. And that would be my final board. Which means that it would go here, mono, mono, then from here it would go to the Chase Bliss, Onward, TRS, TRS, stereo, stereo, boom. So I'm kind of having a hard time here because actually it would be quite nice to have this expression pedal in the board so that I can control the Onward inside and have it all nice and tidy. What I don't like is that the UAD's outputs are outside of the board. I really don't like this kind of situation because I don't know, I don't like cables being 10s and power cables and everything, and I've had problems with this in the past. So I really do not like that idea. So I'm trying to figure out a way to make that a reality. Took me quite a while of twisting and turning, but I think actually this is the better setup, because this way the outputs of the onward or the Dream are covered here inside the board. This way I have access to the dip switches on top of the Taste Bliss ones. I don't really know which one should come on top. Yeah, I think I really like this setup. I think this is super nice. All my Velcro nowadays is just reused from other pedals. Yeah. This is the Unobtainium by Crazy Tube Circuits. Great Dumble and Clone pedal, like really great. If you're looking for that sound, this is, you know. Also, here are my settings, my favorite settings, in case you're looking for them by any chance, like a good starting point. That's it. And I also like really advise you to get this matching, because it's very practical. You can put it anywhere in your board and then switch the ODS and overdrive special and steel string singer sounds. Oh, that's nice. That I like. Maybe you can let me know in the comments what you think will happen. Will happen in the past, yeah? Will happen, because my doubt is it okay? This one's small, yeah, this one's small. Is it okay to put a true bypass tuner before my fuzz face? Will it freak out? Or will he be like, hey, and enjoy the company? Because fuzz faces are notoriously picky with who they hang out with, right? So I'm quite curious to know if he will like the Polytune, or if he's gonna be like, get this thing away from me, as he is with, well, most things really. So that's all the cabling for it. Really proud of that, actually. Super nice, super clean. No fancy custom cables or anything, so that's always quite an achievement when you can pull it off clean with no fancy cables. Power. Okay, so here it is. This is the final version of the board. I'm really happy how it turned out. It is kind of a shame that the small board didn't work out, but at the same time, a tuner pedal is always super essential, and having this expression here is actually really handy, so I think it kind of had to happen. And I have another video now, part 2, that I'll post together with this one, which is just an explanation on how the mood works and a few of the sounds that this board can make. So definitely check that one out as well, which is much more, well, there's more playing in it because there was no playing in this video. So check it out and let me know in the comments if you're happy with it, if you're kind of sad about the small board not having worked out. What do you think? This doesn't work because it's not connected. What do you think? And yeah, hopefully see you soon on another one of these, even though I might not change this board for a while now.